Look, I know there's more than our usual crowd in here, but can I have your attention, please? Can you pipe it down? Thank you. This special strategery meeting of the Republican base will come to order. Now, each of you represents a different part of our core voters, and we're here to make sure that we're all on the same page. Yes, you over there, the religious nut.
We prefer the term values voters. Thank you very much. For us, the most important thing is making sure that our agenda reflects the teachings of God Almighty. Jesus Christ the Lord.
Gotcha. Making a note of that right now. Gay bashing and denying birth control to poor people as promised.
Amen.
Anything else you want?
Well, now, it would be great if we could bomb Iran to set off a giant war in the Middle East that would lead to Armageddon and the second coming of Christ. That'd be good, too.
Okay. That doesn't seem like too much of a problem. The neocon wing over here is right with you on that, aren't you, boys?
Yes, and speaking for the richest 1%, anything that increases defense spending is great for business.
Oh, sure.
And Mr. God person over there, yes. I believe Jesus would also want the total deregulation of Wall Street, don't you?
Fine with us. We're all going to be raptured up there anyway.
Amen.
Okay. Well, okay. Who's left? I mean, who haven't we heard from? How about you, redneck racist?
Between the coloreds and the Jews, a real American can't find a job no more. We need jobs.
So say no more, Mr. Cletus. We do want to promise you that we will cut taxes on the very wealthiest Americans until all of your needs are met.
I don't see how that gets me a job.
Yes. Obama does want to take your guns.
God dang, Kenyon. We got to get out the vote.
We certainly do, yes.
Amen.
Excellent. Good. We're doing great, folks. Hey, let's take a lunch break. We tried to come up with a meal that would please all of us here. In the back, you're going to find some beluga caviar and pork rinds. But think twice about mixing the two. The XL pipeline's not done yet.
Blasphemer!
A little joke.
You should pray for forgiveness.
I should.
Oh, sure. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Takes your breath away. Because it's only funny because it's true. That's the only reason. It's true. You've got 1,000 militiamen that ran out to this ranch. 1,000 of them, okay? 1,000 of them ran out there to defend a deadbeat. A deadbeat. Then you had an entire conservative media, hundreds, if not thousands of radio stations and thousands of hours of defending George Zimmerman. And then after that, you had conservative media and thousands of hours and thousands of radio stations defending Michael Dunn, who, killed some kids who were on their way to go meet girls at the mall, but were listening to music in their car. I mean, look, and then they couch it all in this, what I call uber nationalism. And this is one of the signs that that fascism is rearing its ugly little head in a country. It's so interesting, but when you look at like the CIA fact book to see who's the most democratic, or, they always look at things like uber nationalism, civil rights, whether they're, available to all people, whether there is secrecy or spying going on, if there's a glorification of a military culture, if there's, corruption in corporations, and are they shielded from prosecution, if the media is controlled, if there's rampant sexism, if there's a militarized police force, if there's, free and fair open elections, or are they rigged, or are they stolen, or are they, is it stacked up against the people who wish to vote? Are certain people prohibited from voting by virtue of where they live, or are they, in this case, redistricted out of, making free speech is considered? Yeah. We're so third world. It's just amazing how we're not a democracy anymore. And like I said, they're doing studies on it now. Princeton, Northwestern universities, serious places are doing serious studies on the condition that America finds itself in. And obviously, people are concluding, and they're using nice words like oligarchy. Plutocracy is another one. That's very nice. It sounds almost surgical. It sounds almost sterile. It sounds acceptable, but it's really just a euphemism for fascism. It really is. And, I go down this checklist, every once in a while, the 12 warning signs of fascism. Some have 14, some have 12. And We've met all of them. I mean, when I first started to see the uber nationalism, I got worried, okay? Because we were invading unarmed nations in the name of American freedom giving. You know what I mean? It was just so check, 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 and check. The state's message is sometimes couched in an easily recognized religious theme. Check. Amazingly, this language is used even when the full context of the teaching shows the meaning to be diametrically opposed. Check. Any dissent is, quote, siding with the enemy and therefore treasonous. Check. Number 3, rights disappear. Disdain for human and political rights. Fascist regimes foster an artificial climate of fear by intentionally amplifying stress and anxiety. Citizens naturally feel a strong need for security and are easily persuaded to ignore abuses in the name of safety. I don't care if they're spying on us. I haven't done nothing wrong. Now you're all screaming about, the NSA is spying on us. Join my team. You could stop it before it starts if you were just with me on this, and you'd be right and consistent. That would be a breath of fresh air. The few still willing to question are met with bullying and smear campaigns and are intimidated. Hello. Legislative bodies are cowed into rubber stamp submission with occasional ceremonial opposition. The judiciary tends to become activist in support of states' rights. The public often looks away or enthusiastically approves as its own rights are stripped away. I told you, there's only 2 moods in this country right now, numbness and total agitation. The concept of the individual inevitably yields ground and is exchanged for the promise of safety for the all-powerful state. Number 4, secrecy is demanded. There's an obsession with secrecy and national security. The workings of government become increasingly hidden. Questioning of authority is discouraged at all levels of society, from office talk at the water cooler up through the entire apparatus of rule. Guarded speech and secrecy become ends in themselves. Troubling questions are muted. Entire areas of scrutiny are placed out of bounds by simply invoking national security. Number 5, the military is glorified. Supremacy of the military. The military establishment receives a disproportionate share of government resources, and pressing domestic needs are neglected. Individual soldiers and military culture are glamorized and made constantly visible. This provides an object for public glorification, as well as a sharp warning to possibly restless citizens that the power of the state stands closer at hand, ready to use its great potential for violence. Corporations shielded. Corporate power is protected. A segment of the business elite plays a major role in bringing fascists to national leadership, often from unsavory obscurity. This marriage of big money and raw violence is often considered by historians to be the hallmark and the backbone of fascism. As these business, government, military interests meld, the significant threat of organized labor is clearly recognized, and labor unions and their support organizations are either co-opted or ruthlessly suppressed and eliminated as soon as possible by any means possible. And Scott Walker can tell you, I mean, all these union, but it's amazing. Goes on, corruption is unchecked, rampant cronyism and corruption, power through this small group of associates, mutually appointing each other to interlocking and rotating positions in government, business, and the military, the revolving door. With this kind of control, they make full use of official secrecy and ready threat of state violence to insulate themselves from any meaningful criticism. They are not accountable. They are shielded from scrutiny in a way unthinkable in a democratic society. And then the media is controlled. There's rampant sexism, disdain for intellectuals, a militarized police force, a militarized citizenry, and stolen elections. Hello, lover. Welcome to fascism. You made it. 19...
Let's see here. Global temperatures rise half a degree. Alarm climate scientists. Boring. What if we show a porno instead of the news? Freddie?
No, absolutely not.
Freddie, come on. We're just brainstorming here. We're trying to figure out how to make the news less boring, and you act like we peed in your milkshake.
The news is supposed to be boring, Ron. Serious stuff.
I just don't know why we have to tell the people what they need to hear. Why can't we just tell them what they want to hear?
Wait. Say that again?
I said, why do we have to tell the people what they need to hear? Why can't we just tell them what they want to hear?
And what do they want to hear, Ron?
That we live in the greatest country God ever created.
Damn straight!
Folks, a huge story broke this week, which was completely ignored by the mainstream media. I wouldn't even know about it if it weren't for the intrepid reporting of award-eligible journalist Sean Hannity. Jim?
And welcome to a special edition of Hannity's America. We are calling it the greatest nation on earth.
The U.S. is the greatest, best country God has ever given man on the face of the earth.
Did you hear that? America is the greatest, best country God has ever given man on the face of the earth. Now, you might wonder about the methodology behind proving a bold claim like that. Well, it's fairly simple. You have your great countries, and you have your best countries. Now, those aren't necessarily the same. Some great countries aren't the best, and some of the best countries aren't that great. Norway's been coasting for years. Now, it goes without saying that all these countries are gifts that God has given man. But only some of those gifts are on Earth. There's some pretty cool stuff waiting for us in space. I'm hoping Unicorn Planet. And last but not least, you have the subset of things God gave man on the face of the earth, which excludes such subterranean wonders as gold, diamonds, and the soulful music of the mole people. So, those are all the conditions. And what's at the heart of that diagram? America. QED, America is the greatest, best country God has ever given man on the face of the earth.
Am I making sense to you, Mr. Beale? Eddie in San Jose.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Eddie.
Welcome to fascism.
Thank you. Welcome. We made it.
I'll really miss Colbert's show, and I'll really miss your show after May, too.
We're all leaving, and Letterman's leaving. It's just time for us to go.
It's a whole new era.
It is.
So, well, you brought up how these racist insurrectionists, and that's what they are. They're insurrectionists, basically.
Yeah.
And they were mostly quiet for a while during the Cheney era. Maybe political correctness played a role in shaming and silencing them briefly.
Yeah.
But, I heard on this TV show, The Americans, about about these Russian spies in the Washington, D.C. era during the 1980s. One of the things they did was blackmail government contractors and government employees to steal secrets. And the thing I heard that was on last night, one of the characters goes, if these blackmailers can keep you afraid and ashamed, then they can keep you silent. And this is exactly what's going on here with, as you pointed out, with the media, Fox News, right-wing talk radio. That's how they operate.
I know.
They shame and bully and intimidate, reasonable people.
Sean turned to an irrefutable principle of logic. Repetition makes it true.
One of the reasons the United States is the greatest nation on earth, the greatest nation on earth, the greatest nation on earth. Still not convinced America is the greatest nation on earth? America is the single greatest nation that God ever gave man on this earth. We say it's the greatest country God gave man, the single greatest, best, freest country God ever gave man. We live in the single greatest, best country God gave man. I say this on radio and TV all the time, and I say it all the time.
I think he's proved his point. He clearly does say it all the time.
I abide by all of Nevada state laws, but I don't recognize the United States government as even existing.
The courts disagree with Mr. Bundy's reading of the Constitution. and have ordered him to pay for his use of the land like every other rancher does.
That's his hero. I mean, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's in stark contrast to, what they're actually doing. They'll preach, they just say these things over and 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 over, and then they do something else. That's Alice in Wonderland kind of stuff, and it's all meant to bamboozle you. It's all meant to create this uber nationalism in the name of, believe it or not, corporate stealing. That's what fascism is. Fascism is government by corporations. It isn't any other thing. It has absolutely nothing to do with the people. It has nothing to do with democracy. It's a completely different way of governing a territory. And frankly, the corporations have come to this conclusion, rightly or wrongly, that, and this is why they keep telling you how lazy you are. They're beating that into your head, too, that people are lazy, they're takers, 47% don't contribute, you do nothing, you're not productive. All these things are happening at the same time for a reason, and it's because corporations have made a conclusion. They've decided something. And that thing that they decided, it's done, is that your labor isn't worth more than $1 an hour to them, when they can get prison labor for 2 cents an hour, or they can go to some other country that is happily communist, or some other country that is happily poor, and offer $2 an hour, and those people will happily work in factories on 12-hour shifts. They will sleep in bunk beds. Their dormitories will be surrounded by razor wire. They will have armed guards making sure that nobody leaves the grounds before their shift is over, or they can only leave when they're allowed to leave. Whatever. I mean, this is what Mitt Romney was telling you on the campaign trail the whole time. He kept telling you the story of, well, he didn't tell us, he told a bunch of insiders that happened to be videotaped by a bartender who was helping to cater the event in Boca Raton, Florida. And he said, I have disdain for the 47%. You know what I really do like? I really do like this communist China. They got these girls working in these factories, and they sleep in these bunk beds stacked 3 and 4 high. And they're just trying to earn enough for a dowry so that they can pay some guy to marry them. And there's razor wire. And, his conclusion was there was razor wire to keep other women out who wanted to replace them so badly for this, pittance of a salary. And that's why the razor wire was there. He said he figured it wasn't to keep the girls in. It was to keep the other girls out, because these were the only jobs. And they're in a race to the bottom, these giant corporate multinationals. They've decided that a country with a population of roughly 310, 315 million people is slim pickings. Especially when we're so in debt, we have no savings. Our unions have been busted. We didn't do anything. It's not like the old days when, somebody would come to bust up your labor union and people would go on hunger strikes, or they would, literally, die, be beaten to death by the Pinkertons or whatever, defense contractor would come in there to break up your union. People would stand up and they would take whatever, because they understood the only thing they had was their numbers and collective bargaining, and they would fight for their right to be freedom of assembly is basically what that is. And so they would fight to protect that civil right. But not anymore. Not anymore. And so they came and did all these things to, collective bargaining and to unions and to the ability to negotiate. And once all these things were in place, they funneled all the money up. All the money goes up now. I mean, our nation is still the richest nation on the planet, believe it or not. It's just that 99% of us haven't seen a raise in 30 years. Maybe 3% over 30 years. Other countries, 20% raises, 10%, to stay with the cost of living, to actually succeed, to actually build their middle class. Not us. Because the powers that be have decided that there should not be a consumer-driven economy. There shouldn't be supply and demand for goods. There should only be supply and demand for services. That's it. And the services that that you would do, they want more people in the pool who are willing to do those things so that they could drive down the cost of doing those things. And those things are going to be pretty menial. You know, I mean, this is really where they want to trade places. They want you to become the wage slaves, and they want the new 1 billion strong in India, the 1 billion strong in China, to be the new consumers of the world. Somebody's got to do the work that they're doing now, that real menial work, that factory work, that and they can't. They don't want to pay a fair price. They don't want to pay a living wage because they're so used to not having to. So if they bring the jobs here, it'll only be because their taxes are very, very low. They have a friendly government who removes all regulations about safe work environments, 40-hour work weeks, child labor laws, time off. I mean, we're like the only country that doesn't have time off. We're like the only country that doesn't have 5 weeks vacation or maternity leave or fathers being able to stay home and bond with their newborns. And then we look and we go, look at the destruction of the family. They'll blame it on black people. Sure they will, because it's convenient and people actually believe it, which is just mind-blowing. But the true destruction of the family is through incarceration, drug laws, policy, right? It's through being poor breaks up more families than any other thing. Fighting over money is the number one thing people fight about. Drug abuse. That'll break up a family pretty freaking quick. Lack of contraception so that you're having like 13, 14 kids again. You know, Clive Bundy's got, 13 kids? Yeah, he's got 13 kids. I mean, look, they have thought of everything, and it's really creepy. And the one thing that you can do that undoes all that they've thought of is, I swear to God, voting them out. Sending a crystal clear message that you're on to them. You understand their priorities. You've seen their budgets. You get it. They want to make people destitute. They want to cut the legs off of people who have worked their whole lives but now are in their 40s or 50s and can't find another job because, somebody would rather hire somebody who is 30 with less maybe health problems. Whatever it is, they've decided. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We have incarcerated ourselves. We have the affirmative action case. That is just a flaming example. That's like a big boil on the ass of America, that decision actually came and went and nobody screamed. The McCutcheon decision came and went and nobody screamed. Citizens United came and went and nobody screamed. The Voting Rights Act was gutted. It came, it happened, nobody screamed. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's just two moods in this country. One is like, oh, well, and there's nothing I can do about it. And the other one is arm up and shoot at things. I don't know what, but shoot at things. And neither one of those are going to solve your problem. Neither one. Jay in Detroit.
Randi Rhodes.
Yes.
I've listened to you for so many years.
Yes, you have.
I have never come across somebody like you as a person who can explain the racism and the classism and the fascism and see where they're all interconnected and not fall apart in their argument or get so wordy that, they lose all impact.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss you, but I wish you absolutely the best in whatever you want to do, and make sure you leave a way to get us a message on what you want to do next, if you want to do anything.
Oh, well, you know what? People are migrating to my personal Facebook page, which is, it's open to anybody that wants to go there. Not the one on the website, because here's a creepy little thing that's going to happen. I can't explain this enough. When you leave, everything, it's so funny because I talked to Jess, my kid, and she's like one of these, Instagrammers and selfie persons. And, I mean, it's just like amazing because, she's in her 20s. And I said to her, she's like Instagramming once an hour, always Instagramming, always. And I explained to her, that the day that you leave, all your web presence, everything that you've done on the web, it just, the plug gets pulled and it all goes away. And it's like, poof, you're gone. It's like you've never existed. And I told her, see, that's not a foundation on which to build your life. Right? But, that'll all disappear. But I do have a personal Facebook page. If you search Randi Rhodes Dominical.
Okay.
That's my personal Dominical. Yeah, that's my Facebook page.
I will look for that, and I so appreciate you, and I want to wish you well. I'm selfish in the sense that I want you to keep going, but I understand you get tired, and you've got to take care of yourself, too.
Well, I just think, how many times can I go through the wars, you know? Really, how many times? How many times can you say?
Something is going to happen, though.
For the last, let me tell you something.
Like, where's Randy? Where's Randy?
Well, I know, but and I'll want a microphone. Believe me, something will happen, and I'll go, oh, if I can only talk to them today and tell them, you know, what's really going on. And I know I'll have that, but I gotta just tell you, the last 14 years, except for the brief moment in 2008 where we actually showed up, and that was the difference. That we showed up was the difference.
Yes, it was.
But it was the only time in all these years that people actually showed up. And other than that, I mean, it's just been horrendous.
Well, you know, Randy, as a black gay man, and I know that's shocking to many people.
It's almost a trifecta.
I know.
If you were Jewish, you know.
I know. Look, I should convert, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed about this Clive and Bundy thing, and I've waited to see when the racism was going to come out, and it just happened to erupt today.
Yeah.
But I was going to call you up 2 days ago and tell you that Clive and Bundy is the epitome of white privilege. He's been ripping off the government for 20 years.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting is his little diatribe about, you know, how you were better off in slavery. What's really,
yeah, thank you.
Of course, yeah, you're much better off being beaten, yeah, and tending to your wounds than you are, you know, trying to compete with a white guy out in this environment. At least, you know, he understands it's tough. But what's really interesting is he's criticizing people who are getting subsidized, you know, earned income tax, whatever, while he's stealing the use of federal lands. He's the ultimate deadbeat, the ultimate. I mean, he's taking advantage of a subsidy that doesn't even exist, right?
I mean, most white people, when a black person brings up the topic of white privilege, their eyes sort of glaze over, or they roll their eyes and they say, oh, there's no such thing.
Oh, yes, there is.
But then when you look at Clive and Bundy, he has not only ripped off the government for better of 20 years, he's also remained out of jail in that entire time. And even now, after threatening sedition, still is out of jail and is just expanding his conversation into a racist diatribe, which was natural for him.
Right.
I mean, he had to go here because white privilege for him is the end-all, be-all. And for a lot of people, I know I've called and said this to you before, but President Barack Obama is a daily reminder to these racists that their white privilege isn't worth a damn.
Well, that it's dissipating, and that it is, you know, it's on the verge of extinction, and it should be, because the idea that because you're born a certain color allows you to get away with great crime, or, you know, even petty crime or theft or whatever is beyond reason. It's just beyond reason, and that's why I say I want to get into the 21st century. I want to get back to a meritocracy. I want to see, you know, like people who deserve to, you know, get into college and not have to go into debt.
I agree.
You know what I mean? There's so many things that we could be doing for our own selves to get us into the 21st century. But the 21st century is a scary proposition for guys like Cliven. It's scary for Ted Cruz. I mean, if he had to live in a meritocracy, Ted Cruz would, you know, I mean, green eggs and ham would have disqualified him from being a senator.
Well, you know, Ted Cruz is an illegal immigrant from Canada. So.
Listen, it's true. Listen, the idea that, you know, you've got people who go to jail for life, for 3 joints, 1 each time, and that they just busted some drug ring in, I guess it was somewhere in Philadelphia. Bunch of white kids, preppies, you know, selling pot and whatever, and importing it illegally, and, you know, doing everything wrong, and you know, they'll get a slap on the wrist.
Right.
I mean, that's white privilege. White privilege lets you get away with things that, you know, not being white would cost you, you know, your life. Exactly. Look at Trayvon. I mean, honest to God, if George Zimmerman, as a Hispanic American, had killed a white kid that night, the racism would have gone the other way.
He'd been in jail or dead by now.
Right. I mean, there's just no way. But he picked the right victim. You can kill young black boys in this country. You can still pick them off.
Too bad he compromised his soul in the process.
Yeah, too bad he's rotting in hell. Exactly. Thank you. No, I mean, it's all to create this mutual enemy, and the mutual enemy is whatever a group of people can see as a threat. And the thing that's threatened is their white privilege. That is the thing. That old, angry white man. Cliven Bundy is a 67-year-old angry man, white man. And the thing that he finds most threatening in the end, as we just found out, are black people. This is why the Voting Rights Act was gutted. This is, you know, it's so interesting. You listen to the Supreme Court talk out of both sides of their mouth. On the one hand, they say, we don't need voting rights anymore. And as Ruth Bader Ginsburg put it, you're saying, because I'm not getting wet, I should throw away my umbrella in a rainstorm. See, I mean, their logic is so backwards. 10 till.
His comments are beyond repugnant to me. They are beyond despicable to me. They are beyond ignorant to me. And my level of anger is about, you know, go back and listen to Democrats every election year. They want to say Republicans what? Or conservatives what? That conservatives are racist.
You are.
Conservatives hate women.
You do.
Conservatives want old people to die, granny over the cliff. They want the young people. They don't want to. They want young people to fend for themselves. You know, poison the air, poison the water.
Right.
So people that, for the right reasons, saw this case as government overreach, now are like branded because of the ignorant, racist, repugnant, despicable comments of Cliven Bundy.
Exactly. Because you befriended him. You loved on him. You humped his leg. Even though he said to you,
I abide by all of Nevada state laws, but I don't recognize the United States government as even existing.
The courts disagree with...
I mean, you have Cliven Bundy telling you to your face that he does not believe that the U.S. government even exists. He doesn't recognize his own president. He doesn't recognize his own legislature. He doesn't recognize but he's a registered Republican. And you embraced him, and you humped him, and you loved him, and you licked him, and you touched him, and you felt him, and you held him in your little arms. You told him, nestle in my armpit, you little racist you. As long as the militia's down there with you, you're my new best friend. Oh, I'm worried this is going to be a Waco. Oh, I'm worried this is going to be another Ruby Ridge. You sided with those fools, too. You also sided with George Zimmerman. You also sided with Michael Dunn. Your level of anger. Now he's shocked, I tell you. There's gambling in Casablanca. Oh, my God, we scratched beneath the surface of a white supremacist, and he bled. White supremacy. I'm shocked, I tell you. Shocked. It's repugnant.